How cheesed off are our farmers about tax? Former MP Neil Parish is at a Devon farming show to assess the mood in camp.
I mean, I compare it to a doctor's licence to practice. You know, my farm is my licence to practice. If I have no farm, I cannot be a farmer.
Farming the Arctic, from spuds to reindeer to homegrown tobacco and cool smokers.
Don't ever do fish and meat at the same time.
And Dave's pick-me-up seaweed tonic. Crafty crofter Neil Rowntree assesses how a wee dram does his girls the world of good. Welcome to Farming Britain.
Farmers who come to Agrifest outside Exeter normally come to talk about livestock. This time it's all about inheritance tax.
Well, as soon as I got in the show, I came by the coffee, where the coffee and tea were, and people were actually coming up to me saying, what are you going to do about this? And what do you think of this budget? And I said, absolutely terrible, targeting family farms, food production being pushed back years, and they want us to look after the environment. I think it was Matt Batter said you've got to be in the black to go green. Well, they're doing our best to finish off every farming family in the country.
At the first Prime Minister's question time after the budget, Keir Starmer tried to downplay the seriousness of his Chancellor's attack on agriculture.
But when it comes to inheritance, the vast majority of farmers will be unaffected, as she well knows, as they well know.
Other estimates of the effects of the new inheritance tax regime, or tractor tax, which comes into force on the 6th of April 2025, says it will hit more than a third of the UK's 200,000 farms. Neil Parish is out to truth test the Prime Minister's defence of the tax and find out how farmers plan to react. 13th generation Devon farmer Andy Gray tells Neil that it feels like a conspiracy.
You know, I've only got 150 acres, but because we've been encouraged to diversify, because we can't make enough money out of straight food production, we have other enterprises adjoining the farm, which puts me way beyond the inheritance tax regime, you know, the discounts and everything else. So, you know, basically we have a system that conspires to keep the price of food so low, but we can't actually afford to pay off the inheritance tax we're going to get in the future.
The value of the farm means nothing to me because I just pass it on to my son and he'll pass on to his son, as has happened for generations. And you know, my father and my grandfather have been involved in farming there, and you know, I hope that succeeding generations can. But looking as it is now, to satisfy a tax regime that is being talked about, would mean selling off some of the assets of the farm or some of the business, and thereby breaking it up and making the farm unviable.
I mean, I compare it to a doctor's licence to practice. You know, my farm is my licence to practice. If I have no farm, I cannot be a farmer. So the fact that it's worth something is completely irrelevant, especially in a multi-generational business. I mean, in my case, I bought my farm in my own lifetime through hard work and graft, and now I'm going to be clobbered as I exit my life. So it is pretty obnoxious, really.
What are the NFU doing to bring this government to its senses?
Well, obviously, as you well know, Neil, the NFU is a lobbying organisation. And has done up to the budget and continues to lobby government very strongly for agriculture. The problem with the budget, as far as I can tell, most of what they announced at the budget was dropped on us.
Yes.
Yeah, the NFU, up until a few days before the budget, a lot of this wasn't going to happen. No. You know, the government had reassured the NFU that it wasn't going to happen, and then all of a sudden, bang, it happens.
Yes.
So it's happened.
Yes.
Don't agree with it. They've shafted us.
Right.
At the end of the day, what can we do moving forward now?
Yes.
What the NFU is organising is a professionally organised lobbying event,
Right.
where 600 members will be invited to London to talk to their MPs.
Farmers' strikes we need to be careful of because we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot. On the other hand, if you go for a strike, you've got to hit the big retailers, you've got to hit the processors, and you've really got to make it work. So it's always a high risk strategy, but I think it's one that needs to be left in the armament to be used if necessary, because this government has to come to a recognition of the value of farming. It doesn't seem to value farming. It doesn't seem to value business. It seems to think business is just a milk cow that they can just take money from. And all they're going to do is kill off these businesses. And I don't think they realise what they're doing. The one thing they talk about in this budget was growth. Well, this is the one thing I promise you this budget will not deliver, is growth. It will contract the economy. Even the Office for Budget Responsibility said that. And, you know, Labour were crowing over the Office of Budget Responsibility before they got into power. All of a sudden, they're not quite so right as they were.
What to do? Some farmers want to widen that out and march on Westminster on the same day. Others want to withhold farm produce or services in a kind of strike, whether that's milk or, more damaging for the government, a refusal to take household sewage sludge. It's going to be a fight, not just over where we get our food, but for hearts, for minds, and for rural communities. It could be to Starmer what the miners' strike was to Thatcher, but bigger and much, much more visible to his voters.
So since we recorded that piece, there seems to be some confusion about what may or may not be happening on the 19th. That, of course, could be the intention. Thank goodness for social media. Now, a change of pace. Homesteading in the Arctic Circle. How do you prepare for a winter like this? It's stunning, but minus 30. And the snow can cover this landscape from October to April or even May. People living north of the Arctic Circle know how to stock up, stack up and work with the seasons. There's even a Grow Zone app.
Between dark blue and purple, that's right where we are at. And then we go down on the zone map. So yeah, we're 7 and 8. And then you have the mountain region, that's white above. So that doesn't even have a number.
You don't grow anything.
No.
It's a desert.
If we want to go shopping for seeds or whatever, we always look at the packages, what they say regarding Grow Zone.
Yeah. Well, I know from the last 2 days your country is very long.
Yeah.
Lars Monk is a smallholder who lives with his family near Pajala in Swedish Lapland. Originally from Denmark, Lars grows, rears and hunts a lot of his own food. He loves a full freezer and a log store and works with his neighbours in the village to make that happen. You already prep on there?
I cut all my meat here. Then I take this here. This is sort of plastic you use in walls after you put insulation in, just as the moisture barrier. I cut a piece of that off. It's folded, so it's nice and clean always on the inside.
Let's start with a staple, potatoes. You haven't dug those into the soil at all?
No. I just put them on the ground and then covered them with hay. Most people will use like dry straw, but we have
just hay that wasn't any good, or you just
it's leftovers and bad hay from the bales. So if the bales have been punctured, they often have a bit of mold in it. So we of course clear that out. See, that's mandel. That's like a very typical potato up here. It's a little bit more, what do you call it, floury, dry potato. But they're really good at mashed or just when you pick it up. They're really good. It has like an almond sort of aftertaste.
You've got a good crop.
Yeah, this is one plant still.
So anything you won't grow?
We can't grow all types of apples. We can't grow all types of cherries, grapes, stuff like that. But there is cherries, there is apples, there is grapes that we can actually grow up here.
On our way to admire his log store, Lars explains this odd contraption which horse owners may be interested in.
So in the summer we can have quite a few horseflies here. That black ball gets warm and the horseflies believes supposedly they believe that it's a belly from like cattle or a horse or whatever. So they fly in underneath, and then when they realize, well, there's nothing here to bite or eat, they will fly up because the sunlight comes through this canister. They can get into the canister, but then they can't get out, and then they're trapped.
But it comes as a full kit, does it?
Yeah, I think we paid, I don't know, maybe 100, 120 quid for the whole kit. We tried to make one ourselves to save some money, because that's what hobby farmers do, but that was shit. In the end, it cost me just as much and it didn't work. So, well invested. So we got 3 now, but they work fine. There's like a saying that the snow will drop 3 times and stay the 3rd time. It'll disappear and melt in between. But last year it came and it stayed, and we had snow here until sometime in mid-May. So that was that was a pretty good winter. A long winter anyway. Yeah, and cold.
What was the coldest it was last year?
I think here we had maybe 35, below 35, 36, but in the area there was people who had below 40. So that's pretty cold. Below 40 is pretty cold.
And you get the dribbles then?
Yeah, your snot freezes into you call it the 11. So all the small kids at the daycare, they'll have the 11.
Not everything Lars grows is for eating. He, like many Scandinavians, enjoys snus, a tobacco pouch that sits inside your mouth alongside your gum. He's decided to grow his own tobacco in his greenhouse. This is the one you're most excited about.
Yes, Lauhen Greens, this is the wife's project. But that doesn't mean I can't have something here. And this is it. This is my corner. This is Virginia tobacco. So it's tobacco leaves. No funny tobacco, just regular. But the whole thought of this is to create my own snus and chewing tobacco. Like I really want to try and make, like you've seen like the cowboy films when they have like this very raw cut tobacco. And I think if you can do that yourself, and then with a dash of honey and a good bourbon, like a sweet bourbon, I think I would really enjoy it.
You got some snus on you so you can share what people...
Yeah, so the stuff I buy nowadays, and I use a canister a day. They look like this. They're small tea bags. It's, yeah, tobacco in a tea bag. And
sort of getting out there in the UK now.
Yeah, Denmark as well. It's really spread. People are less and less.
Traditionally from Sweden? I thought
Yeah.
it was a Scandi thing, no?
No, it's Swedish.
Okay.
Yeah. Snus is Swedish. But the really cool thing about it is that you still get higher blood pressure, but you don't have all these lung things with lung cancer and stuff like cigarettes. So it's maybe a little.
These are really pretty.
They are super pretty, and they grow like, they go bananas. We can just have a look here. So once the leaves, they start turning, this is not quite ready, I think. I mean, this is a learning and doing process. I'm no expert, but this has started turning yellow instead of this green, bright green color. And then what I've done is I simply just string them. I take a thread and needle and pop through, and then I hang it up in a dry area where there's low humidity. And then it dries up, and then eventually it should look, I think it should look something like this. This is my first batch. And just pull this from the freezer. I keep it in the freezer because it's not cut up yet. It still needs to be cut. And there I order online like a small tobacco cutter, which is sort of a handle. And you do like just a small movement, and it cuts it into strings. So we'll see how it goes. Might not be perfect, but learning process.
For meat, Lars has a few sources. He recently became a reindeer owner. His dozen animals are part of a herd looked after by the indigenous Sami people. The reindeer are free roaming, but will be gathered up at certain times of the year to be earmarked, checked, and the surplus animals are taken for meat. This mark is unique to Lars. When he gets his meat, some of it may end up here, or in his cold smoker.
Yeah, so in the spring we'll take different types of meat. What do you call them? So the inner parts from the thigh, those that are maybe a little bit, we call them class 3, so they're a little bit more chewy. They're really good to salt, and then we cure them in the spring. It has to be on the north side so it doesn't get the warm part of the spring sun, and we'll leave it for everything between 3 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
And then the meat cures, nice and salty, but it cures, and then you can cut it and put it on your sandwich, or you just eat it as it is with a beer. Really good. And if you don't like cured meat, then we cold smoke it. Same thing, you salt it, and then we cold smoke it in here.
Oh, it smells amazing.
Yeah. And the really clever thing here, and this is clever, this is actually a cheap hot smoker that you can buy like for, I don't know, maybe 50, 100 quid. And that one is not, it's really good at smoking, but it's not getting warm enough to actually heat the whole hot up. So it never gets over 28 degrees Celsius, which is sort of the, after 28 you start breaking down the enzymes in the meat, and then it gets hot smoked instead. So it's always somewhere between 10 and 18 degrees here.
So what fuels that?
Electricity. This one is electricity. I was actually planning on doing it with firewood, but it was just so damn easy.
Okay, but you've got wood chips down there, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you can either make them yourself, or you can buy these bags. And one bag of this will probably...
So where do you put the chips? Sorry,
No,
I think
down here.
Okay.
And then there's like a heater underneath. And then it just generates smoke.
So that's, sorry, I'm losing the... I thought that was a mini chief thing.
It is a mini chief.
Yeah, but what is... So that is actually a smoker?
Yeah, but it's a hot smoker.
Oh, I get it.
Meaning
Sorry.
that the temperature in this one would normally...
But because of the volume you've got in there, it makes it a cool smoker.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Which is... And it works wonders. And the only thing I can say is... don't ever do fish and meat at the same time. I've done that once. All the meat tasted like fish.
But you made that yourself, yeah?
Yeah, of course. Scrap wood.
Recovering from smoker and cutting room envy, he takes me to see his cows. Belted Galloways do well here.
The closest one and that one. They're born this spring. In May.
Lars is trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. Of course, they have supermarkets and shopping centres close by, but the extreme conditions make you think ahead and prepare. Of course, there's a strong cultural connection with the environment, and the people here enjoy working with the natural rhythm of nature. If you want to learn more about this wonderful part of the world, go to heartoflapland.com. Thank you, Lars. Swedish Lapland is a very special place. Next up, Neil Rowntree is trying something new, a splash of seaweed in his water troughs. The last time we were here, we had Dave eating or chewing cud, basically, literally. He was having a bit of munch, wasn't he?
I was when he said I want to have a look at your grass, I didn't expect him to start grazing. But the points he made were well, you know, they were well made. And one of the things we're quite keen to do here, and it's the general policy, is to be less nitrogen dependent on what we do with our grassland. So we were quite keen to experiment with seaweed. Well, the use of seaweed for feeding animals goes back a long way. For feeding us, goes back a long way. And I was quite keen to try seaweed rather than just going through the old practice of just putting, the recent old practice of putting nitrogen prills on the grassland. And one thing led to another, and I think you were kind of involved in pointing me in the right direction. I said, I'm looking at seaweed. And you said, well, strangely, so am I. And we've done it this year, that we've put some on the grass park here at your back. And the cattle are in here at the moment, but this has really been grazed in by the cattle, and we're going to be using this for our deer farm. So we'll be running a small deer farm here on the croft as well. One, because I'm passionate about deer, and two, because they eat the stuff. And I'm pretty confident I can produce a reasonable product, and it'll add to the diversification of the croft, a bit of beef, a bit of venison, and it fits in with the other parts of the business that we do. And with that in mind, I remembered that old Colonel David Moncrief used to always insist that seaweed was put onto the, put on tables, and the stags had access to it in the deer park up the road. So I thought, we'll give that a try, and then, as you could say, luck or chance would have it, Dave Edwards produced this, and we've been using it now with the cattle, and you can see, like TT here at our back. I mean, she couldn't be shinier if she tried, she's in the best of fettle, and she's a big fan of sea juice. So some of the parks don't have a reliable water supply in them anyway, so we put an IBC, like if it's on the back of the Polaris, and a trough into the field, and what we're doing is we're topping it up with sea juice. It's giving them access to minerals that they wouldn't get any other way, and it's a natural product, and that's where we want to go. We don't want to be using anything other than natural products where we can.
Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our social media platforms. If London does go ahead on the 19th, then I'll be filming, so do come and say hello.